Welcome back to CMO Weekly, where we explore the boldest minds shaping the future of technology, security, and innovation. Today, we're diving into the world of decentralization, trust, and safety in emerging tech with Clara Tsao, a founding officer of the Filecoin Foundation and Filecoin Foundation for Decentralized Web. Clara has been at the forefront of Web3, blockchain, and trust and safety, helping build the infrastructure for a more secure and decentralized internet. Her resume is absolutely stacked. She's the co-founder of the Trust and Safety Professional Association, a former senior advisor at the Department of Homeland Security, and has held key roles at Microsoft, Apple, Google, Sony PlayStation, and Mozilla. She's also the board chair of the White House Presidential Innovation Fellows Foundation and a senior advisor at Tech Against Terrorism. Today, we're talking about how decentralization is changing the internet, the evolving challenges in trust and safety, and what it really takes to build tech that empowers rather than exploits users. Clara, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I was so stoked when you came through, just because when I was looking through your resume, I mean, you've done everything. You've touched a ton in your career. I want to go all the way back to when you were like growing up, right? You didn't know what crypto was. It wasn't where you thought you were going to land. What was that job? What was the dream job growing up?
Yeah, so I don't know if I've always thought about my career as a job, but more around what I want to solve in this world. And since I was growing up, I've had a deep conviction of wanting to solve inequality. The older you grow up, the more you realize that's really challenging to do. You can have all the money, you can have all the power, you still can't solve that issue. And I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area where I saw a lot of innovation happen around me. And I thought to myself, why is so much innovation only serving the world's 1%? I thought the internet was a great vehicle for really democratizing knowledge. And so that became my thesis for a long time in every single job I've taken, is how can we make sure that everyone can access the best knowledge possible so that they can have the opportunity for upward mobility or be able to do things that they want to do.
Yeah, and was there like a first role that you landed that kind of solidified that understanding of what you wanted to do?
Yeah, I think it was not a role, but a moment in a role.
Yeah.
I had spent some time at Microsoft, actually working in the worldwide education team. For me, a lot of job mobility is just having access to what kinds of jobs are available and what kind of skills you need to access those jobs. And obviously, technology, computer science, those are really important. And making sure that every kid can access education. So I was at Microsoft for many years on the worldwide education team. We actually had a partnership with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and a few other partners. And I was working with a number of activists and government officials and groups from Myanmar that were going through their first election in a long time where they had been under years of dictatorship. There was a aha moment for me when I had realized that they had grown up in a very different version of the internet than you and I probably experienced. So in Myanmar, the first time people access the internet is actually through a mobile phone. They actually skipped the desktop generation of what the internet looks like. And they had really two conceptions about what accessing internet meant. It was just email and then Facebook, because Facebook had created at the time internet.org and was just giving away Facebook on the internet for free. The challenges with any kind of major big tech company entering a new market is they often don't know the local culture or language. And what quickly
They expect everybody just to be like them, right?
Yeah, exactly. And what quickly happened is you had a country with so many different ethnic groups and also a lot of previous historical tension suddenly experienced the way to talk to each other. And a lot of online misinformation that we saw in the US in 2016 was happening in early 2012, 2013, 2014 in Facebook online, where there was nobody moderating the content, but also it was anything goes. And so for me, that was a really interesting moment because I just thought about, wow, the role of a major monopoly being able to come in and then dictate how people speak online on the web. And
It changes the world.
yeah, and Myanmar has a lot of different dialects, and Facebook actually dictated the main language that they use online today to speak. So for me, it was just crazy, and I thought, we have to think about the power that comes with responsibility when you have these major tech that have so much control in even ways that they don't even imagine. I don't think it was Facebook's ill intent to kind of rattle the the feathers around how people were perceiving information online, but it was an unintentional consequence of that. But shortly after that situation happened, you can read over in the news, the government in Myanmar decided to just really filter the web and show people only what they wanted to see. And for me, coming back to my original thesis of really wanting everyone to access knowledge on the web, that felt really bad, right? Like there's basic information that people should have a fundamental human right to be able to search in an open and free web, and it's sad to see when people decide to tamper down on.
Absolutely, and that's going against your mission, right? And that's core what you do. And you've worked at Microsoft, Apple, Sony. What is the biggest thing you learned from all of your experiences at big tech?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I learned is actually how to work with big tech. So a lot of people,
What do people not like understand or misunderstand about that?
I think it's less about what they understand or don't understand, but it's just how large tech works in terms of incentive structure, how teams make decisions, what are internal teams that function there. And a lot of people only do startups. And at some point, they want to work with the big guys, they want to work with enterprise players. And it's often hard to understand why they're not getting that deal or why they're not necessarily making the needle move in conversations. I think when you've been inside any major tech company, and you have the chance to understand how teams work, how people are incentivized, who reports to who, uh, what is more of a marketing campaign than actually what a company can do. I think those things are especially powerful. I think the biggest lesson for me actually was the importance of partnerships when I was at Microsoft. Microsoft actually has 50,000 partners all around the world that help them be able to scale. And they don't actually talk to consumers that directly, like other companies. But for me right now in my role, a lot of times our work is around empowering different organizations to be able to automatically be able to run on their own. And you just can't do it standalone. So I think one of the biggest skills I learned was how to really scale a business. And also how, in the perspective of a major monopoly, how they think about especially the international realm. So
Yeah, I mean, that's unbelievable. And there is so much that goes into big tech. Personally, I've only worked for companies under 20 people, so it's a complete foreign world, but I can completely understand where you're coming from. When you're introducing yourself, like a lot of our listeners, they may have some crypto, they know crypto, they know some meme coins, they might have a perceived notion about the, industry as a whole. What was your first impression and like how did you learn about blockchain, Web3, and what was your first impression and what drove you to really doubling down and building a career in it?
yeah, for me, I don't think it's necessarily crypto or any major topic that's made me jump in. It's actually been really smart people. I think being able to follow great talent is so important because you're able to learn, but also be able to think about areas where you can actually disrupt. For me, crypto was really fascinating. A really smart, good friend of mine who got me into Bitcoin in 2013, but it was really understanding the underlying technology behind crypto. Crypto is from cryptography, which is a form of mathematics that has been around for a very long time. And it really is how you can securely transfer information or a function from one coin to another. And a lot of times this can allow for the lack of intermediaries have to intervene when there isn't that basic level of trust. And I just found the space really fascinating. Back then in 2013, a lot of crypto was very early stage. And so you didn't quite have the talent there just yet. But I just found the entire thesis around what a decentralized financial system might look like, and also what decentralized applications might look like. I think the other analogy to look at crypto that is a whole different realm, and I wouldn't even call it crypto, is open source technology. Open source technology really came through, and people found it to be much better than people programming their own technology in the dark. When you have an open system of people able to contribute, and you saw the rise of GitHub and a number of people being able to take existing open source code and build on it. And crypto is just another vehicle to be able to do that with an incentive structure that comes with, a finance layer. So,
And you've talked about it being a vehicle and it has so many different use cases. And with your work in private policy and for, Homeland Security, how do you see it playing a role in election interference and everything going on there?
yeah, and a lot of really interesting applications that I would love to see more of. rather than sometimes there's so much in the news around useless crypto things like meme coins or other. Is I do really do think that crypto is transformative in really what the technology can do if you get the right people focused on the right things. We looked at blockchain application for critical infrastructure. When you think about major cybersecurity attacks on energy grids and being able to secure critical infrastructure with blockchain, there are so many important applications of the technology that go beyond trading Bitcoin or trading meme coins. So, and I think that's what a lot of movements, what drew me back to crypto when I went back in 2020 was a lot of people who were firm believers that today's web is fundamentally broken and we need to build a better and more decentralized version of the web where it doesn't rely on a business model where today if you imagine every major business that is successful on Web 2, Microsoft, Google, Alphabet, their main business model is to monetize off of user data. No matter what they're trying to say,
Totally.
at the end of the day, companies they acquire as well, they have to show revenue, and revenue is through advertising. And unfortunately, I find that to be a really bad version of the web because this is how you get a lot of sensationalist content. There are a lot of content today that might make kids feel even dumber. A lot of parents are worried about the kinds of content that they're seeing on the web, right? And it's no longer a universe where you go into a physical library and you want to look up the best book on gardening and you have an unbiased view. Every single structure, whether it's Google or any other search engine, they go by an algorithm that serves the highest advertiser or bidder or someone who can pay an SEO.
It's a scary place. It can,
So
yeah.
so when you can really bring back data in the hands of the people, that's really what drew me to Filecoin because I had spent so many years, whether it's trust and safety or looking at the dark corners of the web, seeing people weaponize the web in the worst possible way in a model that was built off of advertising. And I think ultimately it's moving our society to a darker place when you can't actually have people access the best knowledge out there, and you end up having people in these traps that are like the fast food diet of the web.
Absolutely. And it's just junk food a lot of the time. So you're at the forefront of decentralization with Filecoin. What is the biggest misconception people have about decentralized tech?
I think a lot of people, when they think decentralized tech and then they see blockchain added to it, they just think about the price of a token and tokens being traded. And they're not wrong because there are a lot of people that are just launching tokens for the sake of launching a token these days. So it's really hard to take crypto seriously. I think there's a huge subset of really amazing people that are actually trying to transform the world and financial systems that are really thinking about the opportunity of using blockchain technology to do exactly that. For us, we've had the thesis of how do we build a better web? Well, we have to start with storage. And today's storage is in the hands of four major monopolies. With the age of AI coming, there's going to be even more data monopolies. And in order for us to break up the data monopoly, what if we could have a decentralized network where there are people with the ability to spin up servers all around the world? And instead of servers all living centralized at an AWS or somewhere, you can have a network of nodes that upkeep data at any point in time. And so that's been our mission since the Filecoin white paper was written in 2014 and then made to the public in 2017, was really thinking about building an alternative to storage that doesn't have to be a centralized model. Do you look at the time that Amazon took to build AWS? It was close to 13 years. And so for us, we actually often think of ourselves more like a tech company than sometimes being in crypto because there are more players these days in infrastructure, but actually not that many. And we really use blockchain and crypto as a means to offer an incentive for people to upkeep files online. That's it. Like people are not supposed to use our token just to trade. That's the wrong way of looking at it. But that's been what really drew me to Filecoin is I felt like it was the best solution to solving inequality on the web is being able to give back data ownership and giving users a choice. There's going to be users that really don't want to manage their own data and they just prefer to give it, but at least they've made the choice to do it. I think these days there's a lot of people that touch the internet are just completely unaware of the existing incentive structures. So for me, that's what I'm most excited about. I'm also really excited about the layer of different other companies that are thinking about transforming access to financial systems, especially in places where there might be inflation, like in Argentina, where I think 30 to 40% of people today use crypto there because it's more expensive for them to hold their own local currency. The inflation just is so bad. And so we're starting to see opportunities where crypto has also been the best solution for situations where people can't control.
And what's I mean, I just heard you talk, right? And I'm like, that makes complete sense, right? But what's the biggest hurdle for user adoption, in your opinion, for decentralized web and what you're building?
I think the biggest obstacle for us is honestly existing competition in a more centralized storage business, right? Amazon, Google, Microsoft has had so much time to build out their business and operations and lock people up. Today, if you wanted to move, for example, petabytes or terabytes of data, sometimes you have to send an entire truck to be able to move the entire servers from one thing to another. And egress fees are so high that people feel like they're locked up. If you wanted to move all the data from your podcast to another provider, just the amount of hours you could spend. And I think that's what we're trying to prevent is people being able to choose and say, hey, I want to be able to quickly move data from one place to another at my own standards and terms, as opposed to feeling like I have no choice because it's going to cost me so much in my business to even start.
Absolutely. And you've really done so much in your career and so much for the betterment of society. What's one thing or the one thing that you're just so proud of?
I am super proud of standing by my own integrity of doing what I want to do in terms of my personal life basis. I think a lot of people go through different jobs and they forget the North Star of what they actually want to do in life. For me, every single job or every opportunity I've taken, I've always made the pledge to myself that I want to be who I am and stick to my own values. Because you can enter so many environments where those things might pressure you to change a certain way. So, and I think that's it's sometimes sad to see other people get lost in different places in between, on their journey to success and their journey to build something.
Absolutely. And it's, yeah, it's a systematic thing, but there is free will in all of this. And this going off that, if you were to give yourself a piece of advice to younger Clara at 19, 20, 21 years old, what's that piece of advice?
Follow your intuition.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you see this a lot when you have college students that go for a high paying job out of college, and years later they have quit those jobs and are figuring out their life from the ground up again because what they had assumed would be success was not actually what made them happy. And I think that's why for me, early on in my career, I told myself I want to do things that not only I love, but doesn't feel like work every day. So I don't even when you ask me about jobs, I don't really think about them as jobs. I think about them as learning experiences to really solve the underlying problem that I want to give to this world in my lifetime.
Absolutely. I think that's a good place to start wrapping it up with our quick question round and get this thing out going. All right. Before we start this quick question round, got to give a big shout out to Open Fortune for making today's episode possible. All right. Person you most want to sit down to dinner with, dead or alive?
Love President Obama. He had so many amazing things he did while he was president, and I think he really was someone that really unified the country at the time. Where a lot, it's hard to forget. But he brought so much good talent, not only into U.S. government, but also helped people believe in hope. So
That's for sure. He's been, whenever I ask that question, he might be number one. Favorite city in the world, or Michelle? Favorite city in the world?
favorite city, I love Miami right now in this point in my life. I think I will always have a strong spot for San Francisco. There's so much intellectual, smart people there that really care about also changing the world. So,
Is it okay to sleep with socks on?
yes.
Where's Carla? I mean, we taking tallies. I'm with you. Favorite romantic comedy?
Ooh, The Notebook. I don't know if that's a comedy. That's
More round, more
yeah.
best spot to eat in San Francisco.
Oh, that is so tough. I love clam chowder bowls. So any place for that.
There you go. In 40 years from now, what will people be nostalgic for?
Time off their phones.
One thing people don't understand about your job is
They think crypto is useless.
worst advice you've ever been given.
to just get a high-paying job.
Best advice.
Follow your dreams.
And in 10 years, where can we catch her?
Everywhere.
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 Amazing. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
coming on. That was
Thank you
wonderful.
for having me.
Sweet.
I really
Cut.
appreciate it.